Today I was reading through, I guess you'd call it an old journal, and I was looking at, it was about a year ago when I first got to Costa Rica. I was doing this thing back then that I guess I still do it, but it's like, it's a form of self-inquiry where you're like, for example, I wanted to grab my phone. I think a lot of people can relate to this. You're just sitting there and you know there's nothing on your phone. Like, I actually deleted all my social media, but back then I had social media, and it's like, well, maybe someone liked my post, or whatever's in your mind. You have to be pretty honest to admit this stuff. But so you'll just be sitting there and you'll grab your phone. It's like subconscious. So the self inquiry is like, okay, why did I grab my phone? And then you go into it and it's like, because I mean, there's several layers. Like the first few answers you get are usually justifications. Well, maybe I got that text from work, or I need to, maybe so-and-so called and I need to, but when you really get down to the level of it, it's like, the truth is you just can't sit with yourself. I mean, it was true for me. I should say my truth. Like I could not sit and just be. And this journey, I decided that I wanted to reach liberation or enlightenment in my life. And that's probably the hardest goal you can possibly pick. I mean, less than 1 in a million people. Yeah, way more than that, way less than that, ever achieve it. There's probably only like a dozen people on Earth. There's probably more, but a lot of people, it's funny because once people reach liberation, they don't have any desire to be known or seen, so there could be more. Anyway, it's the weirdest thing. So that turned into this search for truth. And I damn near killed myself with knowledge. Like I love to read, and I love to, so I just vivaciously went through all this stuff, and I learned about the corruption in the world. I learned about rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole. And it made me to this point where it paralyzed me. I heard someone one time say, knowledge is death by 10,000 paper cuts. It really is, man. I mean, in this day and age, we have access to all the knowledge in the world through ChatGPT, AI, Google. Well, at least a lot of knowledge. And it's not solving the interpersonal problems that we have, right? It's making them worse. So after I read all that stuff, I didn't want to work anymore. Because it's hard to admit all this, man. Like, I saw all business as manipulation. I saw all tax money as going to things I won't even say on my channel. I saw all relationships as primal bonding and fear induced. Like, it's just, the truth is not for the meek, man. And they say ignorance is bliss, and it really is. And the funny thing is, today I was listening to my spiritual coach, and somebody asked him, what is the biggest mistake or hold up, or I guess biggest mistake you can make on the spiritual path? And he said, the pursuit of knowledge. And I'm like, shit. That's exactly what I did. And he called it the not the booby trap, but the booby award. You get like the booby award. And he's from Australia, so I had to look that up. And I guess it's like a consolation prize they give to people that get like last place, because they're just like, try again. Oh man. And that's what happened. Like, I learned all this stuff, and I quit doing my business. I damn near checked out of society. It's just like, this path is hard, man. This path is hard. And here's the worst part. Like, when you choose liberation, you can't have it if you want it. And that's a video in itself, which I don't even know if I could do it justice, but you can't. The only way to achieve enlightenment is to let go of everything. It's through pure surrender, which is a process of deconstruction, destruction, right? versus adding and learning. And, I was reading every esoteric book. Like, the older the book, the better. I was a bibliac, I think they call it. Like, I just had all these books, and I knew all that. I still do. I know all this knowledge, all this crap about everything, like all the modalities and religions and the old stuff, and super interesting. But man, it cut me into pieces. It literally cut me into pieces. And so going back to, I was in my journal today reading a year ago, and I was terrified because I knew that I needed to face whatever it was that wouldn't allow me to sit still. And I literally would sit on my couch in Costa Rica, and I call it let the do die. Like, this must be successful, must be someone. And it tore me apart, man. I was just riddled with fear. I'm like, I'm gonna go broke, nobody's gonna like me, everybody's gonna know I'm a failure. Like, all this ego just going. And I forgot how hard that was until I read my journal, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Like, that was a hard time. And your fear will put you right back into action. I gotta take action, I gotta do this, do that. And this is hard to understand, and I'm not saying I understand it, but the crux of it is that you either operate from fear and desire your whole life, which makes you a slave, which is what 99.9999% of people do. So no judgment. I'm still doing it. I'm breaking out of it, which has been the painful part. Or you let go and you fully surrender, and then there's just this beautiful symphony that is played that lays your life out in the most beautiful way you ever could imagine. Like, you could read Surrender Experiment with Michael Singer. That's a good example of it. But man, to go from this program of, you're judged by productivity, who are you, success, social media's made it 10 times worse. Likes, it's all fake personality, it's all vanity, it's materialism, it's manipulation, it's fucking nasty. That's what it is. It really is. And if you're honest with yourself, and if you're on my channel, you're probably somewhat on this journey. At some point, you just can't do it. Like, I can't. And so anyway, I spent that year just I did stuff. I went to the gym, to the beach, and hung out with some friends every now and then. But I was pretty antisocial, and I just sat on my couch, and I had this feeling of like, you gotta do something, man. Like, you could, maybe you should start coaching. Maybe you could do this other kind of real estate. Maybe no, you got it. Maybe you got it. Oh. And anyone that's tried this knows what I mean. Most people, they just follow their fear, and they just get I've seen people that can't even sit down for a minute because they're afraid to face themselves. And so, in essence, my spiritual coach was saying that that's the biggest hurdle. Because what happens with knowledge is you develop spiritual ego, which I did. And then that's just another form of deeper ingrained ego, which, by the way, guys, the ego is, this stuff is dualistic and paradoxical because of the difference between relative and absolute truth. So it's going to sound kind of paradoxical, but the ego is an illusion, yet it controls 99.999% of us, and it is the source of all problems, and it does completely disappear in liberation. And there's a lot of people out there teaching to integrate ego, and it's one of these things where when you tell someone what I just told you, I'm talking to your ego, because that's the part of you that you're identified with. I mean, most people, 99.9 whatever percent of people, okay? And so it is so insidious that if you try to, it's like whack-a-mole, like you try to smack it and it pops up over here. So you try to smack it and you'll be like, yep, I cleared my trauma. And then now you're like this trauma clearer. So it just pops up over here, and it's just, it's a crazy thing. So when you tell people that, they come up, the ego as a survival mechanism always comes back and says, this is all happening in the background. It's like, no, so and so said that you integrate your ego, and obviously that sounds better because I get to stay alive. Like, so it's crazy, man. I've been looking at this, and the more you try to kill it, the stronger it gets, because when you resist things, they get stronger. So the only way to let the ego die is to stop feeding it and to stop putting your attention units on it. We talked about in some other videos your consciousness and how you can make it into a ball and you can take it off your thoughts. Thoughts are the ego mind. And you guys want to hear a trippy thing? Thoughts create what's called thought forms, just like the little balls or the little characters above cartoons' heads in the cartoons. They literally create thought forms. That's where abstract art comes from. And those thought forms create a collective, and that collective is the matrix. The matrix is a dynamic, living, energetic cesspool of shit created by the ego. That's what it is. And the engines of the matrix are things like social media, materialism, advertising, marketing. You have to have this, you need that, this will make you happy. And there are people that orchestrate it. And you can resist that because it's horrendous. Or you can also see it as the most amazing, elaborate way to make people suffer. Which suffering is the greatest guru. So in a way, it's there to help you, because you're going to suffer. It might take you 100 lifetimes to figure out that by getting what you want and avoiding what you don't want, you're never going to be fulfilled, ever. That's what the ego tells you. And you just put these mazes. After you achieve, you go for the carrot, another carrot. You get through the maze, another maze. So anyway, that's the ego. And so I gained all that knowledge, and at this point, it's just now going back to what my coach told me is you just got to let go. It's really, I mean, these are all things we've heard before. I understand that. But it's the ultimate complete surrender to what is as it is. And that is fucking hard to do. Try it. It's not surrender. I mean, it is complete surrender. And so it's surrendering. Like today, I had a pretty big epiphany, and I've actually had this. It's funny too, like you'll have these epiphanies, and if you don't write them down, you'll be like, I thought of this once before, but see, thought, so it's still an ego. I have to be able to let go and admit and be okay with the fact that I don't know how to complete this process of liberation or enlightenment. And that's the polarity or the paradoxicalness of it. If you try to do it, you're doing it with the mind, and you can't do it. It's a whole other video, and that's probably confusing for some people, but it's like non-duality. So today I learned that, again, that I have to be okay with not knowing how, because the truth is I don't. There is no how. Once you let go of everything and your mind is completely free of identification, attachments, fears, desires, and you're just in this chill state, it's almost like you might get pulled in and you might not. So there is no how. There are techniques and pointers that can help you get closer to that point, but those have to be thrown away. So all my knowledge has to be thrown away. And the second thing I realize is that I also have to be okay with the fact that I may not succeed. I'm okay with never reaching my goal. And that is, it's weird because I'm also letting go of goals, but that's what I've done my whole North Star in life about, is self-realization, self-truth. It's the same thing. Truth and enlightenment are the same thing. Like ultimate truth can't even be put into words. So what a trip, man. What a fucking trip. I don't know if this video helps anybody, but I'm just going to start using this more as like a personal diary, and makes it a little more authentic. And I don't know, people either watch it or they don't.